Crowd surfing, yes. Mosh pit, no. No, I'm just kidding.
I cannot imagine giving birth on a plane. Excuse me?
It's like Family Feud.
Hold on, let me check with the... Filmed in front of a live studio audience. Welcome everyone to episode 3 of Parental Advisory, Expecting Parents with First Coast News. We like to have a lot of fun with these, but obviously we have to address the pandemic elephant in the room, so to speak, because it's all anyone can talk about. It's kind of dominating how we're living, our lives right now. So in the wake of everything COVID-19 coronavirus is doing for us, what kind of precautions are you guys taking? What are you hearing? Because obviously with pregnancy, it's a whole other concern of health issues.
Well, so far, my doctors haven't sent out anything specific about it. So I'm just kind of taking precautions everyone else is. I'm washing my hands a lot, trying not to touch my face, wiping down my workstations, trying to stay out of the public, social distancing. But other than that, I don't know if there's much we can do.
Right. I mean, same with you. I've been kind of trying to stay away from the malls, big box shopping. I did go to Target over the weekend because I had to get a bathing suit. That was a whole nother ordeal. Shopping for a maternity bathing suit. Don't recommend Target, by the way. But yeah, I'm just kind of trying to stay away from those kind of social situations, which is hard. I mean, St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was going to plan to go out, not drink, obviously, but kind of go to these events. And now I'll be chilling at home, maybe make myself a little Reuben and go from there. Katie, you kind of did some research on how coronavirus may or may not impact pregnancy. Do you want to kind of talk about that?
Yeah, I did a story on it a couple days ago, and there's not a ton of research, of course, because it's still very limited in their studies. So far, on the good news side, they found that it's not something that's transmitted to the fetus in utero. So even though, the mom may get sick, it shows that the baby doesn't have the same virus, which is a positive. Yeah. Now, they did say as well, breast milk, it does not seem to be carried in breast milk either. It seems to be mostly carried in respiratory drops. So if you have a newborn and you're feeding them, they just said to be very careful, try not to sneeze or cough around your newborn because that's how you could spread it to them. Or even pump your milk and then have someone who's healthy feed it to the baby. But unfortunately, when it comes to, a lot of different rates of preterm birth. They saw that with some forms of coronavirus like SARS and MERS, but there's been so few studies about COVID-19 right now with pregnant women, there's not a ton of information.
Yeah, I think that's the scariest thing of all this, and it has been, no matter, pregnant or not, it's kind of the unknown. This isn't something that we already knew a ton about, and just to have it come up, it's just, obviously pregnancy, most everything is better safe than sorry, and it's just, it's frightening, and we don't know the full effects of everything, so it makes us want to take extra steps to be careful. I know, and thankfully Hannah doesn't have a job where she's out in a crowded, office all day, so I feel good about that, but at the same time, it's just in the back of my head. I think I would have personally probably had one of those more cavalier attitudes of, we'll be okay, but now I think about her and I think about our baby, and it's a little frightening, and I don't know, I've been trying to walk the line because there's, hysteria and there's not caring at all. And I think somewhere in some gray area in the middle is probably the safest place to be. So, it's redundant. We're all saying it, but wash your hands, don't touch your face, and, stay at home. No need to go to the movies, Netflix, and chill.
Yeah. And if you're going to be going to your hospital appointments, like I know, Joe, you have one today.
Yes.
I have one tomorrow. And I'm sure, Casey, you have one coming up probably the 20-week or soon. Mm-hmm. I know I'm going to be very careful about not touching door handles. Like this is going to sound so silly. I'll have little Ziploc bags on my hands, and that's how I'm going to open doors, and I'm going to touch buttons.
Yeah, I wouldn't say silly at all.
I don't want to take any chances when I'm going to the hospital and you're going to be around people who are touching these elevator buttons. So, if you're going to go to the hospital for your appointments, still be careful as well. And
honestly, I'm pretty positive that the hospital we're going to is one of the hospitals that has a case.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it is, and I know it's quarantine, but I don't know.
It's like you might be careful.
Door handles, doorknobs, yeah. So, and I don't have a surgical mask, but I don't know if we're going to go in with bandanas over our faces, like a old train
you're
robbery.
Robbing the place.
But I don't know. Any little bit, it's just, I don't know. I want to just be flat out excited because we're going to get our first real glimpse, and I'm looking forward to that. But and on top of all this stress,
Your wedding.
Our wedding.
Oh.
Which was, it is scheduled for May 2nd right now, but it's tough, and it's breaking my heart right now because I know Hannah's really hurting. She was going to have a bridal shower this weekend, and that's out the window. And I see her trying to just be strong, and we have a lot of things that we're so blessed for and we're so happy about, but she deserves all the in-betweens, And, I had a bachelor party in February, and she's getting robbed of this. So it's rough. And I just keep trying to remind us, that, nothing matters more than your health, than the baby's health. So let's just take that as it is. And, I promise, Hannah, I'm going to make this up to you down the road. You're going to get your days that, and, like Katie, we were talking earlier, after this is all settled, I'll have a daddy-son weekend, and you just go out and tear it up with your friends.
You have that bachelorette party. You rage.
Get it, within reason. But no.
No
rules. No rules.
There's no rules.
Minimum rules. Few rules. But yeah, so, it's just on our mind, and I guess, the lesson here is just be safe. There's only so much we can do. You can't live in a bubble, unfortunately, and no matter how much sometimes we might want to, but just limit what you can when you can and be smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, funny note, this is kind of going off topic a little bit. So, I saw this study this morning, and it said something about, is quarantining going to be linked to an increased number of pregnancies
Right.
because people are, they're in their house, they're Netflixing and chilling.
They got nothing else to do.
So, experts are saying that there's going to be a boom. There's going to be like a coronavirus boom of children. And I'm just like, oh my God, people. So if you're at home and you're listening to this podcast, just practice safe practices, I guess. If
safe quarantining.
Yeah,
Right.
safe quarantining. I just thought that was pretty funny.
So, like 5 years and 9 months from today, some child's going to walk up to their parents and like, so when did you guys know? And you're like, well, the year was 2020 and the world was on fire. And we were
thought,
stuck
let's bring
inside.
a baby into it.
And, you figure this out now.
It's going to be like Generation X, Generation, et cetera, Generation Corona. It's gonna
Their own brand.
Their own brand.
Getting back to the lighter side, we had this idea because we were talking about do's and don'ts, and you've heard everything from your mother-in-law to the woman down the street who just notices you're pregnant. They all want to give you tips, and they all want to tell you things you can and you can't do. I've gone through some studies, and I've formed a list of 13 do's and don'ts. Some of these things, there's a lot of gray area, and before I say anything, I want to make it abundantly clear I am not a doctor, so first and foremost, if you're really not sure, talk to your doctor. That is the absolute best advice. But I did get these from a couple of studies. I got them from the CDC as well as a BBC study that talked to a series of midwives. So there is some good, reason to believe that these people know what they're talking about. This is not me just winging it and writing Joe's opinions. So without further ado, let's play the do's and don'ts of pregnancy. Our studio, filmed in front of a live studio audience. Okay, so number one. Now, you're going to experience some aches and pains. Some.
Understatement.
I'm already there.
Yeah.
All right, see, there you go. I'm learning stuff, too, as we go along. Now, a dip in a hot tub or jacuzzi can sound appealing to relieve some muscles. Is that a good idea? Now, I should have gone over the rules, but we're going to do a show of hands first, and I will pick the hand I see first, because you guys are playing head-to-head. So, a trip to the jacuzzi or hot tub, is that a good idea? Katie, I saw your hand first.
No. My nurse specifically told me not to get in a jacuzzi, and I quote, she said, "Don't boil the baby."
Oh my God.
She said no, which I guess is bacteria, but she was like, no, you don't want to boil the baby. I'm like, okay.
All right. What about hot baths, though? I heard hot baths are also kind of off limits, but that's like the kind of gray
baths.
area. Okay.
Or even too hot of showers, which weirdly enough, I'm obsessed. I love hot showers right now. I wasn't obsessed before. Now I want a hot, like scalding hot
Just
shower.
because you can't have
Just
it.
because I can't have it.
Well,
Exactly.
you are correct, and I'll tell you why they say you can't. Not only because of the baby, but because you can feel faint or lightheaded with all that heat. So that can be a risk to you, which then, you can pass off to your baby. So experts say a lukewarm bath is good. Now, if you're looking for something aquatic exercises are fine. A trip in the pool is fine, but we just don't want that super hot temperatures. So I know Hannah's showers, if I step in after her, previously it would melt my skin off. So there's no more of that now. There's that nice warm level. Okay, next. some people, for them, fitness is a lifestyle. For some people like me, it is less than such. So how about going for a nice jog or getting some exercise while you're pregnant? Is that, yes, Casey? Yes.
It's totally fine. I've been going to Orange Theory, which is like high intensity interval training, and I thought I was going to have to quit. I thought I was going to have to stop running, go to walking, whatever have you. But my doctor said that's totally fine. Mm-hmm. Just don't start being an Olympic athlete all of a sudden. When you get pregnant, don't overdo it. And I haven't really been. But it goes back to some of my trainers. Some of my trainers aren't really that familiar with pregnant women. So I've been, one of the trainers, not at Orange Theory, this is I have 2 gyms. I have a side gym. So this is at my side gym. At my side gym.
Don't tell about the main gym, about the side gym.
Yeah. I have to keep it on the down low. So my side gym, one of the trainers is like, get on your back, start doing some crunches. And I was like, well, I can't lay on my back. That's not a thing. And he's like, oh, I've never heard that before. So it just goes back to like, make sure if you are going to the gym and you are working with professionals, make sure that they are indeed professionals and know how to work with pregnant women. Joe, what did you find out?
You are 100% right, and I liked what you said. Don't start being a crazy, athlete now. Don't start being a CrossFitter if you're not, because it's about what your body is used to.
Yeah.
Because when you try something more, you're adding that stress, and that is a bad idea. So you're absolutely right. You get the points, and if we're doing bonus points, but I'm going to try and keep this on the straight and narrow, you're absolutely right too about not being on your back, because that puts pressure. Can't remember the science of it.
It's a nerve, not your sciatic
nerve,
but
like
it's some type
the
of
fluid.
nerve.
It pinches it, and you don't want to do that. So yes, you can work out. Don't choose today, though, to be a superstar, to really, start CrossFitting or moving Atlas balls. So, all right, so we're tied up at 101. Question 3. Every so often now, you may want to change in hairstyle. Hannah and I still tentatively have our wedding coming up, and she wants to dye her hair. Is dyeing your hair a good idea? Katie?
I think you can. I think at one point, maybe in the 80s, they told women not to because of the ammonia and stuff, but at least I know I've gone to get my hair done, and doctor didn't tell me not to do it. And my hairdresser, who's pregnant actually as well, she said that it was fine too. So I'm going to go with it's fine.
Katie, you are absolutely right. Now, of course, there was concern in the past about the chemicals in them, but as we advance in technology, we get away from, like you said, the ammonia, some of the harsher things. So the chemicals are very mild, and research doesn't show that there's any adverse effect. So you want to change that hairdo, by all means, go for it. Now, if you wanted to be cautious to the nines, there are more natural hair dyes that you can also try, just if you're someone that's really trying to avoid everything. But by and large, yes, hair dye is okay. All right, moving on.
That's interesting because I was kind of curious about that. I've done my hair a couple times, and I was kind of like on the fence about it. Mm-hmm. So that's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Hannah, like I said, we had a big day coming up, so she certainly wanted to make sure that, she was everything she wanted to be, so she wanted to put that color in, and she's got a nice little red tint, and she's good to go.
Y'all, you don't need to see what my natural hair color is. We just need to keep that under wraps. Let's just keep that hidden.
We won't talk about that here. I can edit that out later. No. All right, so how about this? Let's say you're prepping the nursery, okay, and you want a fresh coat of paint on the walls. Should mother-to-be grab the roller, grab the paint, crack it open, and start putting a nice coat? Casey?
I'm going to say, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to say not recommended.
I agree.
As my answer. But not terribly off limits.
Because they probably don't want you smelling the fumes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Or nothing else. I'm going to tell my husband I'm not supposed to do it, so Joe, get on board.
When in doubt, honey-do list, pass it off. But Casey, you are 1,000,000% right, too.
I said kinda, so how?
And that's how you're 1,000,000% right.
Oh,
I'll get right in there. Because there are paints that you want to steer clear from, especially, paint strippers, solvent-based paints are very harsh. And yes, it is about the fumes. Now, there are water-based paints and odor-free paints that are safer, but still recommended some ventilation and open windows. So, yes, if you find the appropriate paint, it should be fine, but just pass it off to someone else. Hey, listen, I can't do this because... And start milking that, by the way. Hannah still is trying to be so self-sufficient because she always has been. So she's still trying to move stuff. Now is the time when you're like, listen, I can you get all the groceries? Can you do this? It's like, oh, you only got bread and eggs. Well, okay, I'll just get it. So just really start milking that. Hannah, I'm talking to you. All right, coming up next, maybe, again, this is in the realm of, trying to get a certain look going. Touching up a fake tan. I'm not going to talk about tanning lights, but a tanning cream. You want to touch up the tan so you have a cream. Yes, Katie.
I would say no, just because I know that you're supposed to be very careful about skin creams you use because it can get absorbed into your bloodstream to the baby. So I'm guessing the chemicals in the stuff that would make you tan is probably a no-no. At least I don't think I would do it.
Casey, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think the opposite. I think would be fine, but I mean, because you're putting lotion on your skin. I use 'cause I'm really scared about getting stretch marks. I use all kinds of stuff like that.
Oil, yeah.
So I mean, I'm just gonna say it's in the same vein as that and say that it's cool. But I mean, there are a lot of products that have other stuff in it. I don't know.
Joe?
Katie, I'm not going to say you're wrong because it's never wrong to be cautious about what we're putting on us, but by and large, it is okay. Now, they want to stress the creams are okay because where things get risky is a spray tan. You don't want to breathe that stuff in.
Okay.
So if you are thinking of trying to get a glow going, the creams are a little bit better, but it never hurts to, turn over and look at the label and read that. But by and large, most creams and lotions are safe to use. Okay, how about we got a fancy date night and we're looking, to dress to the nines, heels. And now, before I say this, I'm going to say not that you probably would want to, just guessing, but putting on a pair of heels, is that a good idea, a bad idea?
I don't know if it's a good or bad idea, but I know I have them on
hands.
currently.
I have to. Whoop. See.
Oh, dang.
Casey's following the rules. She raised her hand.
Nabbit. Okay.
I'm going to say, okay, I think there's two trains of thought, but I'm going to go with, I think, no. I think it used to be where you couldn't, and then it changed to you could, and then it went back to you couldn't because your muscles and stuff, they get looser and your balance is jacked up when you're pregnant. So I think a lot of people say that you're not supposed to wear heels, risk of injury type of thing.
Like a risk of falling.
Yeah. But...
And again, what you mentioned too, and you're right on this one, because it's about posture as well, because you want to be careful. And of course, if you're on them for a limited stretch, you should be fine. But for a long extended night, you don't want to stay on them you don't want to stay on your feet too long anyways. But they recommend something more comfortable and supportive because that's about posture. That's about how how your body's going to feel after extended time doing that. They also say a heel height of 3 centimeters can be good to help posture. So versus flats, if you just have a little something, and 3 centimeters isn't a lot, but something with a little bit angle can be good for your posture. That's according to the podiatrists and other fancy doctor word that I don't know what that person does. To remind people who are listening to, this is sourced right here. I'm getting a lot of this from a BBC study that talked to a bunch of midwives. So again, I am not a doctor. I'm just taking the information from some. And again, talk to your doctors if you have any questions. I can't state that enough because I don't want anyone calling in and I use this tanning cream and now the baby's orange like a carrot. I'm like, well, I didn't say use it on the baby. All right. Now, does anyone here have a cat? I know, Katie, you have some dogs, but any cat owners?
I think we're a team dog in here.
Yeah. But I think I know where you're going with this, and I think I know the answer.
Changing the litter box. Katie, right in there early.
It's a no. You cannot do that.
Why can you not do that?
There's something in a cat's poo that can give you like a ringworm or something like that. It can make you sick.
Yes, there's a bug that can be in cat poo, and it causes something called toxoplasmosis. Go ahead and leave a comment if I'm pronouncing that wrong because I get a good feeling I can. But that's an infection, so you don't want to mess with that. In the same vein, too, if you're gardening and you have cats, consider that your cat could leave you a surprise in the garden.
True.
And try and stay away from that. At the bare minimum, use some gloves. But yeah, and I don't think that's a job any cat owner would mind passing off to someone else.
Yeah.
Darn, I can't change the litter box.
My
Shoot.
favorite activity.
Man, that's when I really bond with the cat. But no, pass that buck off right there. You don't want to do that. Here's one that I thought was pretty interesting. Obviously, coronavirus aside, we are still in flu season. Let's say you haven't had your flu vaccine, you're pregnant, you're thinking about it. Should you go for the flu vaccine while pregnant? Casey?
Yes. My doctor told me to get it because you're more susceptible to the flu. And I know a lot of people get freaked out by introducing that type of thing into your body, but that's what they recommended. They didn't really give me a whole explainer on it. They just told me to go get it. So I went and got it. But I'm sure, Joe, you have more information.
I do, but your doctor's right on the money. The CDC recommends this. Outwardly, they say that there are no proven risks of miscarriage or side effects, and the side effects that you could have from the flu shot are identical to just any other person. You could have soreness, you could have fever or muscle ache, and that typically lasts just a couple days. But yes, the CDC recommends everyone get their flu vaccine, especially pregnant women, which I always think is interesting because I don't know what it is about the flu vaccine, and we work in a field with people who listen to professionals, who listen to studies, but everyone flu vaccine is, I don't do that because then I get sick, which I always blows my mind. I get the flu vaccine, but I know some people just, they flash back to whatever feeling that if I have it, then I'm going to get sick.
Some people say it's like they miscommunicate or they mislabel it as being linked to autism as well. I've heard that too.
Yes.
And when I looked it up, I mean, there's no like legitimate studies that claim that it is legitimate. That claim is legitimate. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that they're correlated at all. Did you do any research on that when you were looking this up?
Yeah, and the CDC says that there is no credible study that says that is the case.
Okay.
Now, we know a lot of people have their own, personal feelings and beliefs, and I'm not going to tell you that you definitely should or shouldn't do anything, but I'm telling you what the CDC is saying. So do with that what you will. But long story short, you get the point. Yes, it is safe, and it's encouraged if you don't have the flu vaccine and you're pregnant to go ahead and get it just to protect yourself.
Or if you're thinking about getting pregnant, I
Yeah.
got mine before I got pregnant, and because we kind of knew, like, all right, maybe we're gonna get pregnant. And
Because you went on that vacay. You went to Europe, so okay.
so I was like, I'm gonna get the flu vaccine just to be
Just
safe.
in case.
All right, I get it. Okay, moving on. Now, this is something, there's a lot of gray area in this one. So I'm going to use the answer that I found from the CDC, but I am not going to tell you how to live your life.
Oh, okay.
Having a drink, maybe once a night, maybe once a week, having a drink, what does the CDC recommend? I'll word it like that way because I don't want to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. Katie.
CDC recommends no alcohol during pregnancy.
They absolutely do. Now, and the reason why, and we've heard, you can hear a lot of different things from your parents, from your aunts and uncles. The CDC said there is no particular measure of alcohol that they can deem as safe. And because of that, they can't say that any alcohol is a good idea. Now, of course, I know my mom didn't hard fast that rule, and I think I turned out all right. And I know there's
debatable. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
there's room for improvement. That stings a little bit, but I can't fault you for being right.
I just got Dr. Point.
And hit below the belt, we'll take that one away. No, but yeah, so I mean, it can't, I don't want to scare people and say that if you have a drink a week, it is going to completely alter things, but there's no study that says a drink is going to be okay. Again, this is one that I know people feel a certain way about, so I just want to make sure that this is what the CDC is saying, and that's their advice.
I mean, when you get pregnant initially, unless you are like the most aware of your body,
Yeah, you don't know it at first.
you don't know. And I mean, I got pregnant. We all got pregnant around like Christmas time ish, and so I had a couple of drinks before I found out I was pregnant. And then I stopped cold turkey. But I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting subject because it's like, do you drink if you do choose to drink? I'm not judging you if you do. I mean, is the first trimester the most important? Second trimester, third trimester? Do you do it all throughout? I mean, I guess a lot of people do their own thing.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to, like you said, they can't deem any amount of alcohol safe. I read somewhere that it was because you can't obviously do tests on pregnant women because of the ethical implications of what if something happens to the baby, what if something happens to the mom. So that you can never truly test, pharmaceuticals. You can't really test alcohol. You can't test that kind of to see what is the limit, because then if you have a baby that has problems because of those tests, that would be unethical. So you probably never have the answer.
Right, and because you can't test, no reputable study or anyone is ever going to say,
recommend it.
Take the risk. So, I mean, and it's funny that you say that too, like when you talk about like before you really knew, because, I mean, I've not heard any better news in my life than to find out that I'm going to be a dad, but I'm not going to pretend that this was directly in our plans to happen at this moment. I'll just put it that way. So before we officially knew, Hannah went to the Jonas Brothers concert, and I know she put a couple back.
She was living her best life.
And we were terrified after the fact. That was our immediate thought was, oh, this is so great. And like, wait, we have questions now. And, we talked to doctors, OBGYN, and they say, your body does a lot naturally to filter out the things that babies should not absolutely have. Now, that is absolutely not a green light to roll the dice, but that doesn't mean that something we did when we had no idea is necessarily going to alter the health of our baby. So long story short, CDC says no because there's no study that can prove that any amount of alcohol is safe. But this is a judgment-free zone too. And I understand you're going to hear from your moms and your aunts and uncles and anyone that, a drink a night won't kill you. Okay, let's move on now. And we are winding down here, and we got a tight race. Just to update our viewers right now, you were listening to Parental Advisory, Expecting Parents at First Coast News. Casey with a 1-point lead over Katie. The score is 5-4.
Question got me.
And remember, Katie, you're going to have to raise your hand when you want to get in there.
Sorry.
So you can't just start talking. There are rules. That's all. Okay, moving on. Aside from jacuzzi, if you're feeling some aches and pains, What about a pain medicine? We're not talking about something heavy, obviously nothing opioid related, but pain medication, can you take it? If so, what can you take? Katie?
I think you can only take Tylenol. At least that's what I was told, is basically just Tylenol.
That's what I heard too. Yeah.
Yes, and you want to take a lower dose. That's correct. And the ones you want to stay from, you want to stay away from the ibuprofens.
Yeah.
Because there's something in there that can affect the baby's kidneys, can affect the amniotic fluids. So you want to stay away from that, but always talk with your doctor. This is something very much, I don't want to go too much into personally because you got to talk to your doctor and you really got to know what's best for you. But yes, there are medicines you can take. And with that, Katie, you just nodded it up. So we are coming down to the wire.
So I was sick a couple weeks ago. I actually took 3 days off work. This is before the coronavirus freak out. So it was just a flu, I'm pretty sure. And I went to the doctor and they were like, oh, well, you can't take cold medicine. You can't take any, real deal pain medicine because I had like aches and, all that stuff. They're like, here's some Tylenol. Don't take too much and go home and try to sleep. And I'm like, oh my God,
like
this
that
is
doesn't
the
help
worst.
me at all.
Doesn't help at all. So, I mean, it's nice to know that there are some alternatives if you really need it, but I guess talking to your doctor is just ultimately the best option.
Absolutely. And always too, if you don't have to, they always, the least you can introduce to your system is going to be better. But that just goes back to the fact that there's not enough studies to prove whether something could be a little bit harmful. So, of course, if you can steer clear from everything, that's not necessarily, that's not a bad idea, but it's hard. And, like you're going through a whole lot and we all could use, a little help in any way we can get it. So that knots it up. We're 10 questions in and
so we only have
3
left?
questions to go. I made an odd number, so there has to be a winner unless there's some sort of tie. But I'm not going to say
kinda.
Kinda. All right. Now, this question, I'm not just talking about labor, but labor included. So that'll give you one answer. When should we go to the hospital? If you have concerns or something, what signs are flags that, okay, now is the time to go to the hospital? Now, this can be
for for labor and delivery, or just like if you think there's a problem?
For both. I'm looking for about 5 things. See if you can name these 5 reasons. Now, of course, if you're ever not sure, err on the safe side. That's a free one right there. But Katie?
Okay, I'm going to try. If you have bleeding, if your water breaks, contractions, if you're dilated, crap, I need one more.
Now you got the main ones, Katie, because those are.
I don't know what the next one.
Fever maybe.
Yeah, if you have a high fever.
Yeah, and your general health ones, if you are really not feeling well, go right to the hospital. Katie, most of the ones you harped onto are revolving around when you're going to give birth. If you're 40 weeks in, that's obviously a sign that you're on that stretch that you should be getting ready for labor. But
heavy bleeding at any point you should go.
Yes, that is on the list as well. There's one thing I have on this list, and Casey, if you can get this one thing, I'm going to give you the steal.
Excuse me?
It's like Family Feud.
Hold on, let me check with the judges. Yep, it's fair. I'm going to rule that one.
Oh my gosh.
Now it's not an easy one because you got the big ones. But Casey, if you can guess this
no
one.
pressure.
If you did I already say it? Or is this something new?
I don't think it's been said.
If you get into an accident, car accident, something like that, that is
a safe idea. I'm not going to give you the steal on that one because it wasn't on my list. Not that you're wrong, but I'm.
But that's not what you're
playing
written down.
Fast and loose. That's not what I've written down.
So neither of us get it.
Dagnabbit. Yeah, we'll call that one a draw, I guess. Man, I didn't want to get a tie, but that's still potentially possible. So what I'm looking for is a change in fetal movement. And I think we're all a little bit
less kicks. Yeah.
Yes, and we're all a little bit away from that. We should start feeling fluttering. I think Hannah's feeling a little bit of fluttering at home. But if you notice regularly, and it's different for everyone's baby, but regularly, let's say around 3 p.m., this baby goes wild. 3 p.m. comes and you don't feel that or something feels different, that's a good sign to go in. But the reasons you guys gave are all legit, and car accidents especially too, just because even a low-speed accident, especially if your seatbelt goes around your waist, that can cause issues. So again, that's my pitch for that seatbelt thingy.
They should make you a spokesperson.
I know. I wish I was sponsored. All right. Contact me later, guys, whoever make that. Okay, let's say you have a trip. Well, flying right now is not a good idea in general.
Yeah.
But in a world where we don't have a pandemic, flying, what are the rules on that? When is safe? And for bonus credit, what do you need to check before you fly?
I mean, I'll take a gander at. Okay, so my doctor told me that up to 8 months. Like when I hit my 8-month mark was when I needed to not fly anymore. So I'm guessing that's when you need to cut it off. And then, of course, within your last month, you're not supposed to be an hour away from your hospital in general. What you're supposed to check before you go.
I was about to say, like, how much you're dilated, but that would be awkward.
Yeah, be like, excuse me, TSA, just real
Do you have
quick.
a curtain real quick I can step on?
I would guess you want to check the seat, or like how if you can stand up and walk around, because can't you get blood clots or something like that?
That's true. You don't want to be sitting too long, so you
Like
you
how
want to keep
long
moving.
the flight is?
I'm going to give you this one too, because the answer as far as when you can fly is in fact that you are pretty much safe up until around the time when you're expecting, because then you just don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're on the outs. So, once it hits that last month, you don't want to be in the air. Who knows how far along you start to enter that window where it can be expected. Now, what you want to check is the airline's rulings on when people can fly, because different airlines,
Oh, they may not let you fly.
they have different regulations.
They don't
So-
know my life. They don't know my
I'd
life.
be like, maybe I'm just big.
Yeah.
Maybe I had a burrito. You don't know.
I would hate to see anyone get those plane tickets, say, well, I'm not, I'm only 6 months in, I'll be fine. And then that airline, try to put a hand on you and say, listen, we can't do that. Especially international flight has different rules as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to check the airlines and you have to check the regulations, because they might not want to chance it and they might say, we're not going to be liable, so you have to stay home.
I cannot imagine giving birth on a plane.
That'd be so bad.
Mile High, baby? Is that
Oh.
that's an elite club.
Is there a doctor on board?
Sounds like a scene from Airplane. Okay, so we are down to my last question, and Katie has a 1-point lead. We call that other one a draw, so there is room for a tie, Casey.
All right. Prepared.
Now, I know that Hannah is looking forward to the Black Keys coming to Jacksonville. Now, my question is it a good idea for her to go to a concert? Casey.
Okay, I know this. I'm kind of guessing here, because there's a concert I want to go to at the end of summer, and it's like 2 weeks before my due date. And I've been talking to people, and they said, yeah, that's cutting a little close, but you can still go to a show, I think, like a month out. So I'm going to say a month out, yes. That's my answer.
You are absolutely correct for the tie. For the tie. Like I feel like I need to wing a tie buster now to get this. But yes, loud music is not going to hurt your baby. It's not going to blow out the eardrums. I'm not telling you to sit in front of the speakers. That's probably ill-advised. But no, it shouldn't affect your baby's hearing. And the thing I read, too, from the BBC also said stay out of the mosh pit. So if you're looking to go to some
In
death
case you
metal
were
bands,
unsure.
Oh my gosh. Crowd serving, yes. Mosh pit, no. No, I'm just kidding.
guys, put me on my side. I don't want to be on my back, so just gingerly pass me around on my side. Well, a tie?
I don't know. What can we do? Do you have an offhand question? An old wives' tale somewhere?
I have one, actually.
Okay.
Okay, guys, we are in sudden death overtime tiebreaker. So happy it came to this. Now, let's say Uncle Ray is coming for a visit. Uncle Ray is a smoker. Now, obviously, he's not going to smoke around the baby. He's outside. He has a cigarette. He puts it out. He waits 5 minutes, and he comes inside, and he would like to hold your baby. Is that okay for Uncle Ray to hold that baby? Katie!
No!
Why, Katie?
Because it could still be on his clothes. And just because I would be difficult and be like, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's just gross.
Yeah.
That's just nasty.
Nope.
Katie for the win. Third-hand smoke. Now, believe it or not, third-hand smoke, and I'm talking about smoke that is embedded in your clothes, can actually be more dangerous than second-hand smoke, because when he's holding that child,
They're right up against
they're
it.
right up against it. Katie for the win on do's and don'ts, but I would like to also state that you guys knocked it out of the park with all of these, clearly talking to your doctors about advice, and that's what everyone really needs to do. This is fun. I back this with experts, but if you're not sure, call your doctor, and if you have some do's and don'ts too, post this in the comment section, because I'd like to see some more. So, Katie, the winner, would you any speeches, any words you'd like to say?
No, I'm shocked I won. I feel very unprepared. But I'm excited that I had some knowledge, but this was fun. This is a good time.
It was great.
Absolutely. And you both sound wonderfully prepared, I will say. Again, you guys knocked all the questions out of the park, so I think we're ready for this. I think we can do this. And I learned something as well. So that is episode 3 of Parental Advisory, Expecting Parents, the First Ghost News. So thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned next week, because we'll be back at it again. Take care.